Hello, everybody, and welcome to the now named podcast on the Motorsport Magpie channel. We are here with the Grid Talk podcast, as you can see in that corner. We've got it right. And I always get it right because there as well, we have Wajid. Welcome back, Wajid.
Pleasure as always, my friend. Pleasure as always.
Have you
It's been
have you woke up from the Grand Prix yet?
it was just a fun weekend.
It's been Baku.
The United, the United game, the cluster that was the Miami GP and everything around it. Oh, it was a great weekend of sport.
Yeah, I mean, who could miss out on it all? But so we're going into a weekend, and we mentioned it on the preview and things like that. Christian, the main talking point was sort of Red Bull's advantage, and also the idea that six teams are over the budget cap this year, which we won't go too deep into because we knew it was going to happen with the penalties that were given out last year. So first of all, we go into a weekend. We're expecting, if you think I'm right with this, Red Bull dominant, Aston Martin, Mercedes, and Ferrari battling away at second, and everybody else behind. I guess that's what we're pretty much expecting. Maybe Ferrari a little bit further back after Australia. Then Baku, they looked really good. So odds and evens, they weren't going to be too good in Miami.
Pretty much. I think that was the general sort of expectation that we're in a title fight when we're not. Well, let's be honest. Every single person on the planet expects Max Verstappen to wrap his third world title up um, probably in the next 3 weeks, to be perfectly honest. And in fairness, it was probably more Formula One, Formula 1.5, and then Formula Two. To be perfectly honest,
Yeah.
is the way Miami sort of played out. Um, but wasn't wasn't a great race. It's not even about you know the drama or anything like. It wasn't a great race. And to be honest, the FO, the FIA, the FOM, and Liberty Media um, need to sort of get together and decide what's going on with the future of the sport, really, because it was just the entire weekend was total farcical, from the tickets costing $3,500 to to the to being charged $55 for a sandwich, and so for a wagyu beef sandwich, which had two slaps of bologna, to be perfectly honest. um the the influx of all these influencers, the drivers quite clearly not being happy with the facade and the entire cluster of the weekend. You could see how awkward it was during the driver entrances. None of the drivers wanted to be there. George Russell has come out openly said on Friday, none of the drivers want to be there. We don't want to be stood in Miami heat in our race suits for longer than we have to.
I think the problem is like which we get onto later. As you can see below, we've got these the comments. But actually, let's get on to it now. The Grand Prix. The Grand Prix of Miami, we watched it last year. It was debatable about how it was run, what things were happening. We had boats with no water. We had, um, marine areas when it's not even next to us, next to a marina. We've got. Shall we start with the a lot of it? Like, there's no problem with having it. Let's start with the positives. There's no problem with having it around the baseball stadium. Yeah,
For
fine,
American
not a problem.
American football stadium.
Sorry, American Football Stadium. Sorry, most of them use stadiums for everything in
Sorry,
some
no,
places,
no.
but yeah.
Sorry, I just
No,
want
no,
to
that's fine.
just want to get that.
American Football Stadium of the Miami Dolphins.
That's correct.
Well,
Yes.
see, I do learn something on the weekend. So you got the Miami Dolphins Stadium. Not a problem with putting a circuit around there. Not a problem with building a circuit around that kind of situation. Which I've got to be honest. Um, which I'll just put my phone on silent. Um,
Nice.
it's not ideal because you sort of restricted in what you can do as a circuit. You know, but that's the problem with any street circuit. So Singapore was the same. You know, you're very restricted. This one had a bit more openness, which is a bit like Jeddah, where they had a blank space. You know, they had access roads, but they had certain things to work around, but not as direct as say Singapore, where you've literally got a road and you've got to go where that road goes. Or Monaco, which is very similar in that kind of way. So before people jump on us and say Miami, yes, they've got a street circuit, you know, that's not a problem. It's not a problem having it in Miami. It's not a problem having it around a stadium. It's not a problem having a street circuit. It's not even a problem that it's not a great layout. You know, that's not a problem. The problem is that the Grand Prix, which is the focal point, the reason we are there, is a secondary or third thought. It comes after the celebrities. It comes after the ritz and the glamour that they're trying to bring in, where Monaco just brings it generally, you know, because most of them live there. Whereas Miami, they're trying to bring them in. They're almost trying too hard. Would you say, Wedged?
I think you're way more polite than I'm about to be. Tiki Hillman was given a blank canvas around. At the time, it was a huge, unused area around the Hard Rock Stadium, and he's produced an absolute, banger in terms of designing a car, designing a car of for designing a designing a track for um for modern F1 cars that that do not work. You design you and it's time and time again he's been given blank canvases after blank canvases after blank canvases and just cannot make it work. Just cannot make it work. And you know what? Because I vividly remember when Lewis saw the announcement of the Miami Grand Prix and he saw the initial layout. Like I remember those back to back sort of stories. He went from oh my god, I'm so excited to what on earth is this? And it's not great. And going to what Dave said about about the spectacle, about the glitz. Monaco is Monaco. Monaco is the jewel in every races in every sort of professional racer. It's part of the holy trinity. Le Mans, Monaco, the Indy 500. For every single seat, for every racer, those are those three races are the holy grail of races. Singapore brings natural glitz and glamour. It was the first night. It was the first night race. It's the setting of Singapore. It's the scenery around Singapore with naturally with the marina. How they've designed the circuit, the changeable weathers. Like Singapore is sort of the jewel of the is turning into the jewel of into the Asian racing.
Yeah.
Even 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 the Jeddah, no one likes 50 races in the Arabs or whatever. But do you know what? Jeddah's slowly becoming sort of the Jeddah and Bahrain are two very very good races. Put all that stuff aside. Jeddah and Bahrain are two very 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 good races.
I suppose also just to jump in there with Jeddah, like we, I do not like the circuit. I know what people say. It's quick, it's exciting, it's all this. I hate the circuit because it doesn't promote good organic racing. It doesn't. It promotes a slipstream fest, which
No,
Mons are
sorry.
slightly
My,
different. But
but my point about it is that it's natural glitz and glamour.
yeah,
It's not forced. It's
well,
like
that's where I was going to say, where you've got somewhere like Abu Dhabi, for example, where they've forced it. They've built everything around the circuit. They've built and that's why Abu Dhabi sort of what while it's also a decent Grand Prix at times. Don't get me wrong, it's almost, if it's not at the end of the season, I think it would be quite sort of dead as an experience of a Grand Prix, because there isn't that sort of build up, there isn't that likability of going to that circuit.
It's true. It either works as a start. It either works as a starter, or a sort of end race. It doesn't work in the. It doesn't work in the. But my point was about sort of the races I mentioned have the natural glitz and glamour. The Arab scene has their natural bravado of the sort of the way they sort of they're very extravagant and stuff. Miami is so forced. Everything about it. The drivers have to fly in on the Wednesday for these forced TikToks and things like that. You've got and you're inviting influencers. I look.
I just very
I
quickly, I wouldn't say it's just the drivers either. I mean, you watch Simon Lazenby, and no disrespect, but Simon has grown as a presenter on Formula One. When he started, he was not interested really in Formula One. He had to build that interest, and really has sort of took the sport to heart to a point, and brings in that sort of, I'm not part of a paddock, but it's making me excited or excited about racing, and that's good. But then he has to overdo it in Miami on purpose, and then he's going turning around to somebody like Danica Patrick or Jensen Button and saying these things, and they're having to go, yeah, yeah, it's brilliant, it's great, it's all this. No, it's not.
and then but because the drivers have to come in on the Thursday for the extra media. We have influencers literally going saying, "Oh, I've been invited by F1. I don't know anything about the sport,
Yeah,
right? But I'm there for the I'm there for the I'm there for the party. I don't do this podcast because like I don't care if I ever get invited by F1. Don't care. I enjoy giving my opinion on the
yeah.
sport. If you're going to invite influencers that genuinely have a genuine affinity to the sport. Invite the likes of WTF1 to Miami. Invite the likes of P1. There's and all the people and all the sort of race followers on Twitch and stuff. There's so many more, but we're inviting stupid TikTok stars that are viral for 15-second dances that know nothing about the sport. And literally just going, oh yeah, I'm there for the party. And then it's the race itself. It's such a bad race circuit.
I mean, you go on about the celebrities, and before somebody
Sorry,
says, "Oh well, would you
actually,
get?"
sorry,
Go
sorry,
on.
no, no, sorry. The final thing. Do you know if we're having celebrities? Right, I said it last year, and I'm saying it again this year. I'm really sorry to cut you off, but
No,
it's
no,
because
it's
you
fine.
mentioned celebrity. It's because you mentioned celebrities. I remember. If we are having celebrities on the grid walk, yeah, right, they should know. They should be told, if you are on the grid, you are there is a good chance you will be interviewed on the grid. Just because you're there for the VIP experience and all that, they should be told there is a chance you will be interviewed on the grid because of the media requirements. There shouldn't be 95 different security members, and and you know what? The security members and the FOM should make a better judgment and
Yeah,
explain, like, this is Jackie Stewart. He is a three-time world champion. He's not some mug that you put your hands on. We've got security guards pushing 80-year-old men. Are you for real? This is a disgrace.
well, we could also take it the other way. I mean, I can't. I messaged you straight away, and I can't even remember his name. But whoever came up to Martin and said, "Crofty told me to come and find you because I'm so and so," and Martin's like, "And like, I'm sorry, you're there for two reasons. Normally, you've got invited for VIPs. Three reasons. You're invited for VIPs. You're invited because you're a fan of the sport, or you're invited because you've got something to promote. Now we know why Will I Am and LA LL Cool
LL
J.
Cool,
Yeah,
LL Cool J, yeah.
you can tell I'm a little bit older. Um, you've got them sitting there promoting their song. Maybe it shouldn't have been used for all these intros, but I get where they're coming from. People are going to now remember that music because it was used for that. even though I couldn't tell you how it goes now. The base bring it. It was in the American football player. Sorry, I can't remember names, but the guy was he actually a player for the Dolphins that Martin got wrong last year, and they did that
No,
little piece at the start to apologise almost.
no. So right, so the thing they did last year is he thought he was an American football player by the name of Patrick Mahomes, who's like
Yeah,
the biggest NFL star, but he was a player called Paolo Benchera, who
yeah,
he was the number one draft. He was one of the top draft picks
top
in
draft picks.
last year's NBA. So he
Yeah,
got
NBA. There we go.
yeah. So he
I
got
was wondering why
so
he was 6 foot tall.
yeah. So he got an NFL player confused with a prospective
Yeah,
college. Bear in mind, this kid's only in college. It's not like he's some big star or anything like that.
but
He's
if
only
you knew your basketball,
yeah. If you
like technically, somebody should have been in Martin's ear going, "That's so and so."
yeah. No,
You know.
he should have been like. The only reason I know is because like I really enjoy basketball.
Yeah.
I watch basketball, but that's the only reason I know. For the average sort of European fan who does not watch NBA or does not care about the NBA, they'd have no idea.
Yeah, I would. I mean, personally, I have. I mean, I've just said he was an American footballer, so I personally have no idea. But I liked how they went back to it and went, look, this is the progress you've made in your career over a year. We've gone from not knowing you to you are now part of the grid because of who you are, and that was quite nice. And you had whoever it was come up to him saying, was he a DJ? I
I'll
want
be
to say.
honest,
I
I'll be
am.
honest.
I messaged you, so I'm literally going to look at their messages because I said you can't have that as one of your. I don't know who you are predictions. It was IDK. Yeah. Okay. And then Martin literally come out with his real name, which was brilliant. And then obviously we had the Williams sisters go the other end where he goes, I'm, I'm not even going to try anymore. I've had enough. And then we had the magical, absolute brilliant moment. And what I like about that is Jackie went over. He was pulling at Roger's arm a bit, but Roger was open to do the interview because he knew that's how it works. If Lewis is there on a tennis court, he would get interviewed. So Roger knows that I'll do an interview because he's. I mean, I don't know if we can really say this, but Roger Federer must be one of the nicest guys in sport, really, alongside most people. So he will just do the interview. And he came across, and even while they're still trying to play music, and Martin's like, yeah, we really haven't got time for this. Roger's like, yeah, it's great to be here, and I'm here with Lewis. And it's like, Roger, we wanted the interview about 20 minutes ago. But anyway, that's the problem. We get those different kinds of celebrities. And to me, like Wajid says, if you've got, I think it was Bridgerton, some lady from Bridgerton on Monaco last year.
Yeah.
Who went, no, I'm not going to be interviewed. Well, the whole point you're there is because of Bridgerton. Now, if you don't want to be there because of that X reason, like Tom Cruise, I think it's never stopped Martin before, but he said, I've been told this weekend we don't interview Tom. Because we've done it before, and he doesn't want to be Tom Cruise, he would be literally interviewed all the way up the grid and never be able to. So I kind of get that, because he does go to many Grand Prix. It's like we can catch him some other time, but some of these other ones, they want the promotion. So talk to him, have the interviews on the grid.
And the thing with the likes of Tom Cruise, even Gordon Ramsay and stuff, they know what. They fully accept they have been invited.
Yeah.
Right? They are a guest. So therefore, as a guest, if I go to your house, if I come to your house as a guest, I will act like a guest. If you have rules for your house, I'm gonna follow the rules in your house. I'm not gonna walk through walk through a mud ditch in Nottingham Robin Hood Sherwood Forest. Sorry, Sherwood. I'm not gonna walk I'm gonna walk through Sherwood Forest and then like slap my feet on your couch, going, yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna need to wipe my feet on your couch. I'm not gonna do that. Like, what
Yeah.
we do, and the thing with the thing with the Williams sisters, he's tried before. He's tried before with the Williams sisters. It's not worked. They don't care. He doesn't care enough. Fine, fair enough. Like this pandering this pandering to America, to Americanize everything, and I will and it's the fake glitz, it's the fake glamour. And this circuit is on the grid. This circuit is here till 2031. What
I have a feeling this circuit will change before 2031.
But no, but they're talking about night races because of the lack of ticket sales. How about you not charge $3,000 for a ticket? How about that?
The other problem with a night race round there is, um, I think you'd have a huge amount of problems because you've got to set up the lighting first. That would be a big start of it. Yeah, I just can't see it happening. But yeah, in terms of Miami, I think everybody who's watching has pretty much got our idea of what we think of it. We
I
will
don't.
be probably coming back to it later on in terms of the whole Grand Prix, and yeah, we know what it's aimed at. But this is where we discussed in the last podcast, I think it was, or podcast before. I think it was after Baku. We said, F1 need to decide what they want. They need to decide whether they're sport or some kind of music entertainment industry.
But Dave, you should not have Alex Albon openly saying in interviews, "Oh, F1's no longer a sport. We're in the show business."
Yeah.
He's literally quoted as saying that. How right? I I've said it. I said it in a couple of podcasts, and I'm gonna maintain it. I think commercially, Liberty Media have done amazing, but this pandering to the United States audience, right, to break through the US and everything like that, it's got to stop. It's got
You
to stop.
almost need, dare I say it, somebody who knows the sport. You almost need Bernie running the sport
It's true.
and Liberty Media doing the media stuff.
It's
That's what
true.
you almost need. And I think that's why in the first couple of years it probably looked really good and worked because Bernie was still there. They didn't chuck him out for a year or a bit. Um, but one good thing, and I don't know whether they're asked to do it or not, but they did not go onto the because you and I will both be sitting there as they went in that cool down room, going, "Do not walk out onto that podium with them football helmets and those coats on, the jackets, the
You mean
shirts."
the jersey? Sorry.
We were both sitting there, and I bet
No,
you
no.
were both
I,
going,
w- I,
"Do
I saw,
not."
yeah, I saw that helmet. I saw Verstappen one, Alonso three, and I was just like, oh my god, they're gonna
I
put him on.
was you literally the only words which were coming into my mind was the sponsors are going to kill you if you go out there with that on because all the sponsors would just be covered up, and that's the whole point of sponsoring a team that you've seen.
I think I don't know.
I bet they were asked.
Yeah, I have a funny yeah. I was about to say the exact same thing. I have a funny feeling that they were supposed to at least put the jersey on or the helmet on or something like that, and them three just went, yeah, nah.
Yeah, not a chance. I heard Sergio actually in the cool down room go, are we meant to wear these?" So I do wonder, but thank God when they come out on the podium, each one came out, and I was like, no, they haven't put it on. They haven't put it. And then I thought, oh, is Max going to just to pander to the crowd and that? And then he didn't, and I was like,
I
actually, whatever happens, you've all gained a little bit more respect for there that you haven't gone and put them on.
I think if this weekend showed anything about Max Verstappen and what he thinks of the F1 crowds and this pandering, he does not care. And you know
Well,
what?
no, but
And you know what, right? There's a lot of things about Max that people have said and stuff like that. But you know what? Fair play. Honestly, fair play. Right? Like even in the media room where he goes, "I'll take my trophy and to go home. I don't care." You know what? Fair enough. He doesn't want to pander. He's there to race, and even his face during the walkout, you could tell he was just like, "What am I doing?"
Well, we'll just very quickly because these two things kind of collide. The two things I'm about to talk about. So very quickly, we've mentioned already that we saw. Obviously, we had the issue in Baku with Ocon coming into the pit lane, and that was apparently sorted out. That nobody will go to the podium or into the pit lane before everybody's finished the race, which is fair dues. Should have been done anyway. And ironically, the podium's nowhere near the pit lane for this race, so we didn't really see if it works. It was kind of a bit of an odd one. But we have seen a video with Albon. A near miss to a point. Wajid sent it across to me, even though I had seen it. But
it's Norris. It's not Albon. It's Norris.
Oh, is it Norris? Sorry, yeah. Norris coming into a pit lane. Somebody running across the pit lane. Now, I can tell you from working in pit lanes that happens constantly. But that was a little too close, and that is down to be honest, whoever it was running across being an idiot rather than anything else, thinking he's quicker than an F1 car. If you saw how quickly Sights come into a pit lane, you'll know you cannot outrun an F1 car. Because Sights didn't even think there's pit lane speed limits, I think, with that pit stop.
You got hit with the 5 seconds, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but I think he gained 5 seconds coming in. He was so far into that chicane by the time he actually stopped the car.
The Miami corner, the Miami entry into the pit lane is blind.
Yeah.
So obviously these drivers have incredible reactions anyway, but it was.
There's normally like a hooter or something, isn't there, for a lot of races?
And there was nothing. Like, it nearly got to the point where the most entertaining thing was Lando Norris nearly ran someone over. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Well, what I was going to get onto is free practice 1 and 2, where we saw Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos on their respective pit walls with the teams they sponsor. Now, my problem with this is we're looking at loads of different things from Baku and drivers, fans jumping up on jumping up on the barriers to celebrate wins and stuff like that. Yet we're allowing people who don't need to be on the pit lane, on the pit wall. I understand letting them in the garage. No problem with that. But letting them be on... They've literally had to cross a live pit lane for no reason, except for a photo. And part of my problem is, one, that's Zach Brown as well. He's very much into this entertainment thing with McLaren, but no, both of them should not have been. Nobody should be on the pit wall unless you need to be.
Yes, 150%. And then Elon's quotes about, "Oh yeah, Tesla and F1." Mate, be quiet.
Yeah, mate. There's a series for that. It's called Formula E. And
then you have
if Tesla is going to come into motorsport, go to Formula E first. It's literally your ground.
It's literally it's literally your bread and butter. It's literally your bread and butter.
But then I suppose whether the cars would have a blue tick on the outside, it depends whether they're paid for it. And no, this podcast will be not paying for a blue tick.
Not yet.
Anyway, we've said enough about celebrities. There was a Grand Prix.
Was there?
Yes, apparently there was. We're going to have a look at qualifying first. The qualifying session, actually quite an interesting session in the end. It looked like Red Bull were going to run away with it. They were miles clear. But then we look at qualifying 1. Yes, the Red Bulls didn't come out. Well, actually, Perez did come out for a second time with about a minute to go, which made literally no sense whatsoever. I don't even know why he did that. I don't know if you caught why he did that, but
no, I think
he started getting in the way of people almost.
Well, I don't know. I think he genuinely thought like track evolution was going to hurt him because.
But he wouldn't have got a lap time in anyway.
Honestly, I don't get it.
I just saw him like dawdling through sector 1, and we're like, "There's not enough time, mate." Anyway, but we had people like Kevin Magnussen in the Haas, only a couple of attempts off of Red Bulls. We had who was the other? Bottas putting some good times. The Alpines, so people would like really having this track evolution. And in qualifying one, we managed to lose Logan Sargent, which kind of expected. Piastri and Lando Norris are both McLarens. Yuki Tsunoda, who actually was out qualified by Nick de Vries this weekend, and Lance Stroll, who went back to his customary Q1 position that he's always adhered to in the past. So, unfortunately, the Aston Martin shouldn't be anywhere near there, should he?
No, and Lance, welcome to Fraud Watch, my friend. Not that, not that it's not that it's like the least surprising member of the club this year. But welcome. Take a seat.
The good thing and something.
You will be joined. You will be joined by someone else very shortly today as well.
Nick de Vries. I think I could pretty much guess that. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the qualifying one results, I mean, I know not everybody went out again, but people say, oh, why is there not loads of overtaking? The whole grid was covered by 1.2 seconds. Go back to 1997 and Jacques Villeneuve qualified on pole by 1.2 seconds.
But I also think that the Bolts had the engines turned on.
Agreed, but still, if you not took the Red Bulls away, who was second in that session apart from Red Bulls? Let's take Kevin Magnussen. He was 27.8. Leclerc 27.7. So you're still looking under a second from like third to last.
Yeah,
which is still pretty good.
So I'm not doing that where I take out the best team and then we start to judge the rest of the grid. The Bulls had their engine. Had their engines turned down. Sorry, mate. I get what you're trying to do. I get what you're trying to do, but it's a team with 20. It's a team with 20 drivers, not 18.
Well, no, a team's got 2 drivers actually. Anyway,
you know what I mean.
Qualifying 2, we then lost Nick de Vries, who qualified 15th and set pretty much the same lap time, 28.3 to a 28.3. So he got the best he could have done out of that AlphaTauri on that day. Finished, it was 28.4 so he was a 10th clear of Tsunoda in qualifying 1, and then matched himself pretty much in qualifying 2. Zhou Guanyu qualified 14th, 10th clear, improved to 10th. Lewis didn't get the best out of his car. Can't quite remember any reason why.
He made a big mistake in sector 1.
Yeah, so it was his own fault as such.
Yeah, so the Mercs didn't send out their drivers with enough time, so they couldn't get the heat into the tires.
Yeah.
So the tires were cold. When they both set their lap, George was just better.
Yeah.
And then Lewis made a mistake in sector 1.
Yeah, we had Nico Hulkenberg, who again 27.9, 27.9 in the two laps he did in fastest sections in qualifying. To be honest, he was the guy who was really looking on form this weekend and looking like he was going to almost threat him a top 5 even in that Haas.
Yeah.
And then
100%.
Yeah, and then Alex Albon in that slippery Williams, 10th or 11th. What's it going to matter to Alex? If anything, it put him on the clean side of the grid.
But he was only, I think the big thing for that, he was only knocked out by 300th of a second between him and George Russell. Because George Russell finished in 10th. But I think the big takeaway from Q2 was, just like last year, the Mercs were absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, certainly. And Lewis, as we'll go on to in the race, sort of struggled to get through as well. So it's going to be interesting what this update does when we get to Imola. But Q3, Valtteri Bottas not setting a time whatsoever. And also, the big news, Max Verstappen not setting a time because he screwed up his first lap. Now, this is something we see commonly from Red Bull, that we don't have enough fuel in the car to accept that mistake and then let them go again. They had the time to, so do you think that's a mistake I mean, obviously the mistake was Max's, but do you think it's a mistake by Red Bull not to just let him be able to go twice?
No, because I think the thing is there was so far clear, and I think, which I'll get to in the race, um, they they just there's just that leaning. They're just leaning towards. I think Max was so clear, and if Max strapped on a new set of boots, he was gonna take pole anyway, and they didn't expect Mister Win It or Bin It to bin it as he did for the second race in a row.
Well, I was about to say Charles Leclerc's in the session, so I mean it's slightly like having Latifi in the session. If he's in
What do you
there, he could cause a red flag.
what do
Um,
you what do you make of what do you make of Charles Leclerc at the moment? He is the quicker driver at the Ferrari. He is the quicker driver in the Ferrari, clearly.
yeah,
But what do you make of this win it and bin it sort of persona he's building?
I think we have the issue that with we have an issue which is very much like maybe Max in a Alpha Tauri or Toro Rosso at the time, and in a Red Bull which isn't quite there, or Lewis even when he was in a car that wasn't quite there. Like it's close enough that it could claim a victory if it's the right circuit, right day, right situation, etc. But it's not quite there, and we saw it with Lewis into when he kept running into Massa um, that season. You know, the car's there or thereabouts, but just when it's not, it's causing him to push it over the edge. And he has got to stop this. Don't get me wrong. But I think right now, Ferrari would rather see him try and push the limits of his car than to. Because at this moment in time, even though you're saying Carlos Sainz, you know, not doing the job for Ferrari, uh, he is consistent. You know, like overall, you've kind of got Sainz always in the car to score a few points to get you going. He's letting Charles off the hook, sort of like you. I don't know. You go and see what you can really do out of it, and we'll get Carlos just to bring the car home.
Yeah, the thing is, I get what you're saying, but when when you're talking about when you're talking about drivers that are gonna pick up the pieces when the Red Bulls sort of
Yeah.
if and when the Red Bulls sort of conk out, you
When your
think
prediction comes right.
no, I don't. I'm not gonna predict it again. Watch what happens in Imola. But
Yeah.
when you but you th- but when so the Red Bulls are having an off day, the drivers that ultimately come to your head when you think they're going to pick up the pieces: Fernando, George, Lewis, Charles.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz is not in that conversation. So, like, I understand. Yeah, you're safe and all that, but when you're Ferrari, you're not looking. You shouldn't be looking for
No,
safe.
true. It's true. It's true.
That's why I think. That's why I don't. I still think that if there's a sniff at Ferrari that they can replace Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz with a Lewis Hamilton or someone of that caliber for a year for 2 years or anything like that, I think they'll do it. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think this. I I genuinely think Carlos Sainz has been as successful as Danny Rick at McLaren. It's just not talked about enough.
I wouldn't quite go that far personally myself, but obviously we're all allowed our views on that. I think
They both have the same amount of wins.
no, agreed. But it's the Carlos has brought the car home in a lot more better positions than Danny Rick ever did. Um, Next up in qualifying after Max Verstappen's non-time was, as announced on the grid, Pierre Gasly's school friend Esteban Ocon. You know, I'm sorry if you got an announcement for a driver and your best thing you can come up with it was Pierre Gasly's mate from school. That's not good. Um, then we had Charles Leclerc, who obviously binned it. George Russell didn't really. I don't. Did he get the maximum? I think he probably could have got the Haas and the Alpine in front, Pierre Gasly there in 5th. The Alpine's finally turning up this weekend. Probably for the first time this season, I'd say. Really turning up.
Only in qualifying, though.
Yeah, I think the strategy probably screwed them in the race, to be fair. Then there's the highest ever grid position for Haas. We know Haas took pole position for the sprint race in Brazil, but that's not the grid. So this is the highest position a Haas has ever started a race. Ironic because K-Mag was like nowhere all weekend compared to Hulk. And K-Mag's 4th on the grid and Hulk's 12th. Bizarre. I don't know where he got that from.
That sprint race, that is still, it just irks me. It honestly just irks me. Genuinely, it just so irks me that even though he stuck it on pole, it's not considered a pole position race. That it's an up. It's just anyway.
Next up was Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso sticking it on the front row, and Sergio Perez on pole, which, as Crofty kept telling us, is the first time 3 Hispanic racers have put 1, 2, 3 on the grid. Technically right, but at Spa last year, they had the same, but Leclerc got a penalty, which is why it made it that. So technically he's right, but I think Sean was doing his nut at that point. So
I had a problem with the geography thing. I understand Hispanic, but one's Central American and the other 2 European, but whatever. That's just me.
You have to make it okay. Spanish speaking.
I don't care. If you're gonna try and make a geographical reference, get it right. I'm sorry, Joyce. I was just annoyed with my Sunday.
He was annoyed with his qualifying because Max Verstappen screwed his prediction up completely.
Because I was on for 3.
True, and I will just check the prediction sheet. No, at no point of one of it. I got 3 in round 3. So, Wajid's never got a 3 score before. So, we'll get onto them in a bit. But that was the rate. That was the qualifying session, and I think start of qualifying. I think it's quite easily. It was Kevin Magnussen and Pierre Gasly.
Without question. Everyone else, probably apart from Lewis, probably put it where
it's expected.
And shout out to Alex Albon for dragging that Williams. He's really gone back and sort of rebuilt his F1 sort of status, and he's turning into a very, very good driver.
I suppose the question is he going to just become a sort of a Hulkenberg, sit around midfield now, or is there actually a chance that Albon could pass somebody like, I don't know, Gasly or Ocon to be into a top team?
But I think he's better than Hulkenberg, when he came up against drivers of his similar level or better than him, got beaten. Albon's only really been beaten by Max.
Right, you've made me now want to look at whether Nico Hulkenberg has actually been beaten by a teammate.
Danny Rick.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Checo beat him as well.
Let me just have a look. So in his first year, we'll forgive him because he was up against Barrichello anyway. And first season, he got that pole in Brazil. Then he went to Force India, and he was. So he's always been like, I think his highest is 7th in the points for Renault in 2018. But he's always been that 7th to 10th bloke. Even in races, he's that 7th to 10th bloke, isn't he?
But that's what I mean.
Let's have a look. Wikipedia makes you scroll down a lot quicker. There he is. Oh no, 20. Yeah. Who's? Hang on. What season are we looking at here? Checo's in the Sauber, isn't he? Yeah, that's Paul de Resta he was teamed up with
Oh yeah,
that
come on.
season. So
Come on. We're not really going to talk about Paul de Resta as a race driver.
yeah, I mean he was teamed with Paul de Resta when he went to Sauber. Was it Sutil? No, Gutierrez, who was teamed up with that 1 year in Sauber. Then he come back to Force India. 2016 would have been Checo. Yeah, so he's teamed up with Checo for 3 seasons, then left in 2017, which is where he went
to Renault. Where I think it was Julian Palmer, wasn't it? And come on, let's be honest.
Yeah, Julian Palmer, and then Sites come in for Palmer.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the next season, 2018, obviously teamed up with Sites. Yeah. When did he beat Carlos Sites? Not that that's much according to Wajid. Yeah, he got 7th. Sites was down in 10th. So we're talking about Nico Hulkenberg's teammates. He's had Magnussen, he's had Sites, he's had Julian Palmer, he's had Perez, he's had speaking of a Perez who was trying to rebuild his career at this stage. Who else did we have? We had Barrichello,
Danny Rick,
and in was it 2018 was still Danny Rick? Was still Sites, wasn't it? 2019 was Danny Rick, and Danny got a few podiums, and yeah, Hulkenberg was 14th, Danny was 9th. Difference in points about 20, less than 20 points. So considering Daniel Ricciardo did get 2 podiums in the end, oh no, it wasn't that season, but he got 2 podiums. But it was the season after, wasn't it?
That was his first season. That was his first season in the car where Hulkenberg had established himself.
Yeah. And then Hulkenberg was a reserve driver the season after because he went to Danny Ricciardo was in Renault. No, that's not right, is it? Yeah, it is. Did he really finish 5th in the championship in a Renault? Yes, he did. Never realised that. But yeah, going back to Hulkenberg, I'm not saying he's terrible, but he's probably the measure of your midfield. Not really going to get there. Not really going to be chucked out either, kind of thing. That's what we're trying to get at, even though we just took about 5 minutes to get there. But yeah, in qualifying, we say Magnussen and Gasly were probably the shout out. Albon, do we think he could? Yeah, that's where we were. Do we think Albon is going to get that chance again, like he did at Red Bull?
I think he's a better driver than Nico Hulkenberg. That's it. End of.
Okay. Who do you take, Oscar Piastri or Alex Albon?
Alex Albon.
Even maybe with a year's.
Alex Albon.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I can understand that.
He's proven himself more than. Look, man. At the end of it, that McLaren or not, Piastri came in with a lot of. I said it in Bahrain. Him and Mark Webber went out, wanted to tear their contract up, made a big show and dance and stuff. He's not really. He's not dragged that car anywhere.
Is it me or are McLaren coming up with every excuse going for Piastri right now? Like I guess he wasn't well, but we've heard he was pretty much on the deathbed at Baku. The way McLaren was saying it. But then this weekend there's other things that they're like, oh well, this has happened and that has happened, and it's like, it seems like you're making up excuses now.
But I'm not being funny, mate. When the story came up how they treated one of probably the second or third most likable driver on the grid.
Well, he still gets the cheers when he's on the camera now.
No, but this is what I mean. Like, but in terms of sort of last year's grid, probably second or third most likable and probably marketable driver, to be perfectly honest, on the
Yeah,
grid. And you made him stand at the technology center, apologize and all that, and then but you'd already sacked him. What like you have to, don't you have to look like you're justified in your decision? Is it working? Not
yeah.
really.
No, I completely agree. And we just we'll see what happens in terms because I still think Daniel Ricciardo will be back on the grid next season in a car of some kind. But where, what, how? He just seems very happy at the moment, like he's got something in his pocket. But we'll see. Moving
Yeah,
on
let's get
to
to the race.
yeah, you sound so excited about that. So we'll move on to a race, and while it wasn't Baku boring, it wasn't the most exciting of races. We never probably expected it to be. It was a Miami race. The first race I think we can think of in almost in history, I believe, that there's not even a yellow flag at any point.
There was no yellow, there
No
was
DNFs.
no DNFs, no errors in pit stops, not a single,
But
not a
yeah,
single collision.
not a. Yeah, we had a collision at the start. Lando and was it De Vries ran into the back of Lando?
I don't know what do you expect?
Yeah,
Um,
turn one, De Vries just went a bit deep into the back of Lando, and I think Lando's reply was, "He seems to keep doing this."
yeah. The only reason this race was remotely exciting was because Max Verstappen started out of position, and the stupid thing was, like, we've now got to the point where members in the media are saying, how how many laps do you think it's going to take for Max to get past you? It's not. They're not even. It's not even hiding it
But
anymore,
bad
right?
prediction, Fernando. You were 10 laps
Yeah,
short. 10 laps longer, wasn't he?
I think no. I think he said 25 and it ended up being 13 or something stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I
like,
mean,
no. I look. And then you've got clowns like Will Buxton and stuff online going, you don't know what exciting race is. I don't need 55. I do not need 55 overtakes in a. I don't need 55 overtakes
no.
in a race. I don't need like sprinklers. I don't need rain. That doesn't make an exciting race. Do you know what made 2021 exciting? It's because there was genuine battles for the lead, right?
I would throw out there like yeah, I know what you're saying about overtakes, and I think exactly the same. And I actually think the strategy from this weekend's race could have been kind of interested. Like it wasn't a strategy where you went, oh, this is so simple, this is what we're going to do. There was that sort of development where actually medium soft could have won the race, medium hard could have won the race, and hard medium could have won the race.
I don't
But
think
I
so.
think what made the difference, sorry,
I don't think so. I think there was a clear sort of. I think by the. I think by the. I think when the rain washed out all the grip, I think there was a sort of a clear strategy to it. I
that
think.
probably didn't help. But in terms of like Sergio, for example, which we'll get onto like the Red Bull whole situation, but I think with Sergio, if he had pushed a bit harder earlier on, and he could have done, I think because he seemed to be trying to match Max's time to keep his tyres in good order for the end of the race, but that left Max far too close to him. And everybody can say what they want, but Max drove really well this weekend. In terms of a race, brilliant drive. It was kind of a stamp of, look, Sergio, you've got a bit too close to me in the points. I'm not having it. Sorry, I was about to sneeze in.
That's
Um,
okay.
but it was kind of an attitude in the race. It was like, Sergio, you are not winning this race. I am. I may be ninth on the grid. But I think what the problem we get is these. I mean, yes, I understand Esteban Ocon. I understand almost Kevin Magnussen and people like that going, it's a Red Bull. I'll just let him go. I'm not fighting him. But then we have George Russell, the one guy who will fight anybody into a corner, going, here you go, Max. Defend. What I know about this, oh, we shouldn't lose time and all that. but just fight him. Fight anybody who's coming through. Yes, that DRS and that car is stupidly powerful. We get it. Just like if we went back to Mercedes 2014, how powerful that engine was. But at the end of the day, let's start seeing people fight each
Yeah,
other.
let's do something. It's just I've
You
never.
cannot turn around. Sorry, in terms
No,
of the
no, go on.
drivers, you cannot turn around and say the sorry, you cannot turn around and say the racing is boring, and then go, I can't lose time. Off you go. That is on
Well,
you guys as drivers to defend well without losing time. It's a skill. So go and do it.
Marcus Ericsson tweeted during the race that he goes for people saying F1 boring, give IndyCar a chance.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, go watch IndyCar. IndyCar this year has been fascinating. Has been IndyCar most years is great, but this year's been with the push to pass system and things like that. Yes, the point scoring is a bit diluted and convoluted, but if you want to watch good racing, go watch it. Go watch IndyCar.
Well,
This
well,
isn't. This isn't. I look. This isn't. I don't care about the midfield or stuff like that. My point for good racing is there should be a genuine battle for.
yeah.
There should be a genuine battle for the world title. You had the likes of Karun Chandok. Oh, you should use all three compounds. All we're doing, right, is making F1 into a bigger showpiece. Why should you have to use all three compounds? Why?
I,
What?
I've
What?
said it
Why
before.
though?
Why do we need to know the compounds? We go back to 97, 98. You had a hard and a soft tyre for each compound, for each tyre manufacturer, and you picked it on the silent. And most drivers didn't know until what each other were on until it was the question. There's too much information these days as well. And I was sitting there watching a race, and I thought, what would be better race than what we've got? They want to use DRS. Fair enough. Let's use DRS. So let's change it. Now we've got a few options, and this is what I want to throw out to you. Not just Wajid, but everybody who's watching, pop it into the comments below on this video. What you think is the best solution in terms of DRS, whether it's to get rid of it, whether it's push to pass, anything like that. Now, IndyCar, I get the comparison, but they are all the same chassis, so it's quite easy to design them to run close and be able to overtake and not have dirty air and etc. Even though they do have a bit of dirty air. But DRS, do we keep it as it is and just give them free reign so you can use it wherever you want on the circuit? Do we give you a time limit or a distance limit? So if each DRS zone is a 100 meters long, let's say 100 meters per lap or 500 meters per lap, you can use a DRS. And there's 50 laps. So you times two together, and that's how long you've got to use it. If you want to use 1,000 meters on a lap, you use it for 1,000 meters or time, whichever one. I'm not sure how we could sort of police it in terms of time, but in terms of distance, they could do it as well. But maybe we have this thing where if you're in front and you want to use your DRS, you use it. You use it to defend. And then when you run out of your time, tough. That's how push to pass to push, whichever. It's not touring cars. It's not touring cars. It's not pass to push. Push to pass works. You have a time limit. It's 200 seconds. You put your finger on the button, and each second you got your finger on the button, you lose a second of push to pass. How simple could it be? We've got hybrid systems in the engine, which could be the push to pass.
I think it's getting more and more to we need to get rid of DRS. So yeah, I think we just need to get the DRS thing does not work. It does not work anymore for the simple fact that cars are now saving all their sort of KERS energy system and their KERS usage to use on the straight anyway. And the KERS system is like a push to pass system. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a convoluted push to pass system anywhere. The thing is like you have the designated DRS zones. It's like, here is the DRS zone. This is the only place you can use
Yeah.
the DRS. Um, in But with the push to pass, it's totally tactical. You don't know when they're using the push to pass system. You don't know when the driver's going to attack and things like that. You don't know, excuse me, if if you think someone's going to use it down a straight and you use that and you use your one push to pass and the guy's not used there behind you, he's got it saved. It's totally tactical. It's a
Yeah.
better system. It's just
It's also possibly, dare I say it, a better use of the kinetic energy that is stored.
yes, absolutely.
But yeah, it's something that Formula One are definitely going to have to look at, especially when they get them. I mean, I just think about like the 2006 cars and things like that with push to pass would be that. Yeah, I mean they had technically had it in 2009, didn't they, with a curve system? But
Yeah, and that's because some teams, I think, was it 2009? Some teams implemented curves, some teams didn't.
yeah,
Because
McLaren and Prix went through it, and it was so heavy it was impossible to make a good car around it.
yeah,
But it did win in
so
Hungary and Spa, so it you know, and
and
Spa was due to it.
and Abu Dhabi,
Did it?
2000, yeah, 2000. That was Lewis's only race win, wasn't it? Abu Dhabi.
No,
That's his,
Hungary.
oh, was it Hungary? Sorry,
2009
sorry,
Abu
sorry,
Dhabi was Vettel, I
I'm
think.
I'm getting 2012 mixed up with 2009.
Yeah. Abu
Sorry.
Dhabi was won by. Oh, Lewis got pole, and he got pole in Singapore and Italy and the European Grand Prix in Spain. That must have been Valencia. Yeah, final race was won by Vettel. Lewis's only win was. Oh no, so Lewis got 2 wins 2009. He won Singapore as well.
I don't remember
So
Singapore
yeah,
one.
that was the year after
But I just
Felipe Massa's trigger race. But no, I do get exactly what you mean. And
and
just on that very quickly, did you see the image of Massa passing Nelson Piquet Jr.
Nelson
in the
Piquet
pit?
Jr.
Oh,
If why is Nelson Piquet Jr. in an F1 on an F1 in an
paddock.
F1
Yeah,
paddock? What
I don't know.
what are we doing? Like
Ping pong.
the man has but the man has openly said, yeah, I cheated.
Yeah.
What are we doing? We have
Yeah.
Pat Simmons as head of the technical regulation. He was part of the team that cheated.
I mean, part to me, like,
This is the only sport where we're rewarding cheaters. The two best teams broke the cost cap last year. What are
Yeah.
we doing?
I going off that 2008 incident, Flavio and Pat, yes, I get that they come up with a solution, but there's only one person who could have spun that car. You know, Nelson Piquet, yeah, okay, you're going to go lose your job because you haven't done what the boss said, but you didn't have to go spin it. You didn't have to go crash that car. You know, they couldn't have, if you decided to drive round, you would have just driven around till you ran out of fuel, pitted, and they wouldn't have fueled you up. You know, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to lose your drive, but you've got, you know, I completely agree with Nelson Piquet Jr. Shouldn't have been in the paddock. But anyway, we will get onto a race here because we have actually bypassed the race quite a bit.
Shows how much there was to talk about.
Yeah. Max obviously carving through from 9th on the grid. Opportunistic move on, was it Kevin Magnussen and Charles Leclerc? Yeah. Very optimistic. I think that was more because Kevin decided to go wrong way around Charles. Why would you go the outside?
Yeah, the Red Bull was quick. The Red Bull was quick going on. That was just a very, very good overtaking move. That was opportunistic.
And before anybody asked, no, it wasn't Spa. It wasn't Zonta. It was just a good move. It wasn't amazing. We know what some fans are like.
Please don't tell me people compare that move to the Hakkinen move.
Not yet, but I'm expecting it.
What are we doing?
But yeah, Max came through, and once he got through to second, he was about, I think he got within 1.5 seconds before the pit stop of Perez, who didn't sort of scamper away on the medium tyres. And then Sergio Perez pitted, put the hard tyres on, and then kept the gap at around 17 to 19 seconds, one mistake really making it extend as well. And that sort of did him because once Max pitted, Max was pretty much already in the DRS zone.
Yeah, but I also, according to Anthony Davison on the sort of British
Yeah.
feed, um, Red Bull were constantly coaching Max Verstappen on the gap and where he was. And according to him, Red Bull said absolutely nothing to Checo. They didn't give him any updates. They didn't tell him how to manage the gap, where Max was quicker or anything. But according to Davison, is it Giancarlo Lambassi?
Yeah.
Gianluca Lambassi. So apologies.
Him.
Him. He was constantly coaching Max, and this is why the conversation of a world title battle, even like when we had it on this last show last week, is completely laughable. Because even on the face of it, if there's a world title battle, there isn't a world title battle.
I do partly wonder, let's play devil's advocate on that. Some drivers don't want to know everything, and we don't know if Sergio had turned around and said, only tell me the gap here or there or anything like that. He may have said, just, perfect Kimi Raikkonen. He might have said, leave me alone. I know what I'm doing. But I think even if he'd got the gap, Max would have won.
They would have aired that. I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying Max the driver was not imperious.
Yeah.
Like Max, like as soon as Max walked into Miami, Max was winning in Miami.
Yeah.
Max totally deserved to. I'm not taking anything away. Max was by far and away clear in Miami this weekend.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that we heard Max's race engineer saying, "I know what I'm doing. You just focus on what you're doing." If Checo had said to Hugh Bird, "Leave me alone. I know what I'm doing," they would have aired that.
Yeah, true.
Like I know F1's a massive showpiece, but they definitely would not. They definitely would have aired something to do with the top race.
Yeah.
The fact that Red Bull gave Checo absolutely nothing is another reason why the whole this fake facade of a title battle, and Christian Horner saying, "Oh, I know how to manage my drivers compared to you, Toto."
Yeah.
You know why you know how to manage your drivers, right? It's because you guys have already picked who your world champion is. Yeah,
I mean,
it's
just to sort of say with Sergio, for those who don't know it, he has come out and said sort of like he struggled with medium tyres because of the rain overnight and the graining, and that's why he couldn't sort of push forward in the first part of the race. But if we go off how well Max was driving this weekend, he was driving really well. Yes, he made a mistake in qualifying, but in the race it was, I think there's only one which was a half-hearted move on K-Mag, I think it was, where he stuck his nose in and went, "Oh, I don't know if I'm going to do this," and ended up still doing the move because K-Mag jumped out of the way. Or was it George? I can't remember which, but anyway, apart from that, he was imperious throughout the weekend. And even with his almost lack of speed, Sergio's only finished 5.3 behind him. And we know Max was pushing at the end to try and get fastest lap and make sure he got it, because we were seeing a fastest lap from Hulkenberg. We saw a fastest lap from Stroll. We saw a fastest lap coming even from Guan Yu Zhou Joe Guan Yu at some point. So it was, that fastest lap wasn't really secure until he actually set that 29.7, the only driver to set a 29, I believe, in the race. But can Sergio take a little bit from the idea that he's only 5 seconds behind when what turned out to be a bad strategy compared to Max's good one?
He got his ass kicked this weekend.
But he's still come second, is what I'm saying. Like, if you think of previous seasons, a weekend where Sergio would have got his ass kicked, he would have fallen back into the clutches of Alonso. He would have fallen into the clutches of a Ferrari.
Okay. Checo is in the position of where Valtteri Bottas was with the W11, which is that car is so far clear.
Yeah.
That car is so far clear that it doesn't matter if he has an off weekend, unless there's like a catastrophe where was it that he didn't finish? Which is the race he's not finished second this season? Oh, was it?
None of them, was it?
Has he gone
Oh,
one?
Melbourne, because he had to come
Yeah,
from the back of the grid.
yeah. Sorry, yeah, that was it. Thank you. I knew it was one. Um, Max started from Max. The only reason it was 5 seconds because Max started from ninth, and he gave
Yeah, yeah.
he Paris he, he gave us a 14 lap lead. If that was the 2021 challenger, which was a lot closer when the grid was a lot closer, where yeah you had the Red Bulls and the Mercedes up front, but if you made a mistake, you were finishing fifth or sixth. That's where Checo was finishing. That's where Checo was finishing this weekend. There's nothing to you finish in the best car. Your world championship rival started ninth, cruise past one on, and you couldn't get close to him on
Yeah.
alternative strategies, on fresh tires, anything like that. Sergio got his ass kicked this weekend. That's why like when we were talking last week that he needs to be within a race by the time we finish the European
Yeah.
season. This world title is going to be over by the time we get to Hungary.
We've
I
got.
think
Sorry, carry on.
I think Max is going to try and break the record for the shortest amount of time it's ever taken to win a world title.
Well, we look at last season because obviously we're going off to Imola next, and Sergio managed to get second, two-stop strategy against Charles Leclerc's three, and Charles's spin helped, but Perez was ahead of him at the time. That's why Charles spun. But in the grand scheme of things, it'll be an interesting race when we go there to whether Sergio has pushed forward. I mean, he finished 16 seconds behind Max last season in that race. I still think, as much as people want, like you say, I get why you would say, he's been absolutely whooped this weekend. I do think there's some positives there for Sergio to take away. He didn't seem too downbeat at the end of the race because he kind of knew what the pace Max had. But yeah, well, let's see. We've got Imola, we've got Monaco, and we've got Spain. We've got Barcelona, haven't we? All in a row between the three races. Um, so we'll see what happens there. But looking further back, we go into a fight for second place. I talk about second place in the Constructors' Championship. It seems to be a different... Oh, he'll be back. He'll be back. This happens every now and again. That's okay.
Have I gone?
There he is.
Have I gone?
No, you're back. You're back.
All right. It looked completely fine. The thing is, it looked completely fine on my stream, so I don't get it.
No, you disappeared for a second, but you are back. And if you put your hand in the air, then you should be back to where yeah, you're back to where you were. That's okay. It just sort of stalled for a minute, like it did last time. But don't worry.
That's fine.
So in the battle for second, it seems to be a different team each time. So we had Ferrari battling at the front of it last time out in Baku. We had Mercedes in Australia. We've had Aston Martin for the first two races of the season. And it was back to Aston Martin, really. Fernando Alonso, 25 seconds off the lead in the end, which I think he's quite happy with in terms of that situation. He's always happy as long as he's ahead of Lewis anyway, but,
No, I think that there was. This is the first comment. This is the first post race where there's like a twinge of frustration because
he thought he had a chance here this weekend.
I don't think he thought he had a chance, but because I think he said in his post race comments, which was, "It's great finishing on the podium, but we now need to take the step forward." Because I think, I think so. When he got to Aston, he was massively surprised where the car was, because I don't think he expected to consistently be challenging for podiums number one. But I think this weekend, given where Max was, given where he was, and he still only finished third. I think he's disappointed the fact that I think now he's now disappointed that the Aston couldn't take the fight, or he couldn't fight Max harder.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm gonna say it again, the two the the clear best team and arguably the second best team on the grid broke the rules last year and have not been punished.
Yeah. No, I agree. And Christian keeps coming up with it. Oh, what, later in the season? Well, doesn't matter if the championship's over, does it? Mercedes. I think we could probably say a save and a half this weekend, considering how where. I mean, obviously, free practice one looked really good. You know, I know they went out late on the tyres, but they looked okay. And then just went downhill, qualified 13th and 7th, 6th, sorry, 6th and 13th. To come away with 6th for Lewis, which was a recovery anyway, and he was trying to close down on Carlos, but just, the gap was a little bit too big, and he was dragging Charles along with him. But to get ahead of the two Alpines and Charles late on in the race, and George with a very good drive to get ahead of Carlos Sainz, and to be within 6 seconds of Fernando, I'd say that's a save by Mercedes this weekend.
Yeah, I think the Mercedes race pace has always been decent. It's just been their qualifying pace. Um, but again, I think there's genuine visible frustration in Mercedes now. I think Lewis and George are relatively annoyed that the engineers did not listen to their feedback last
Yeah,
year. For all the talk of is it James Allison, not being being shuffled, and it's like he effectively lost his job. He effectively lost his job, and they didn't trust him. Um, this update that all we've heard about is this update that's coming in. This update best be worth something,
yeah, yeah,
because Mercedes are on record saying that they expect to be challenging for wins by the end of the year. They are on record as saying that.
yeah,
I think both these drivers are waiting for this monumental update that's apparently, the second coming of the second coming of the wheel, the second coming and the second coming and the second coming of Christ all rolled into one quite clearly, because all I've heard from Mercedes is update, 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 update.
Well,
Um,
we can just throw out there on this update that we don't know 100% whether they're going to change the side pod policy that Mercedes have always run over the last 2 years. But when we have seen teams bring out B spec cars in the past,
a la Aston Martin last year.
Aston Martin last year, for even back to Ferrari 2003 when they brought a B spec car out, McLaren thought, no, we've got it wrong, and didn't bring the B spec car in 2004, 2003, something like that, because it was a crash test disaster. Brave man Alex Wirtz testing that one. And I'm just trying to think. There has been others where B spec cars. I think Red Bull have done it before as well. Brought out a B spec car, and it hits the ground running, and it's quick. So, going off history, if you're going to bring a massive update, even if it's going to take you a bit of time to understand it, like Aston Martin, there is no reason apart from Mercedes not being competent enough to do it, which we don't think they are. Well, we don't think they are incompetent, shall we say. Try and get the words in the right way.
Great English.
Yeah. There's no reason they, considering what they're doing with this car, which they really don't understand even after a year, it can only go positive, can't it?
The only difference is all those other teams we mentioned, aside from the Aston last year, have all come under a cost cap. None of those other teams have
Agreed.
cost caps.
But this is a project which they have had under the radar ready, in case this didn't work.
We'll see. I The difference between Toto Wolff and Christian Horner is when the Mercs were dominating in 2016, Christian Horner did everything in his power that year for regulation changes and subsequently from 2016, I think, was it 2018, was it 2017, 2019, 2021, we had regulation changes,
Yeah.
or was it 2019? We definitely had two regulation changes. Um, we had the DAS system, which I keep on talking about, that got barred. Um, the Ferrari engine was completely different, but Christian Horner's whining is what brought Red Bull closer and Mercedes closer. You have Toto Wolff going, "Oh, we're not doing enough good job." No, start whining. Like, we don't want to. We don't want to hear you guys whinge to the race director to change results and stuff. But do your job. Do your job and
Yeah.
protect your team. Do your job and say like the regulations aren't working. Why is everyone in F1? What? No, no. Okay, I know what you're gonna say about the regulation, but
No, no. Go on.
uh, why is everyone in F1 so scared to say that what Ross Brawn promised is not happening? Why is there a fear? Whether it's Sky Sports, whether it's the team principals, whether it's Buxton, why is there a fear?
Because it was such a big change and it had to work. That's why. I know it hasn't, but it had to. And if you shout enough, I suppose it's a bit like how Donald Trump was president. If you shout enough that it's worked enough, people will start to believe it. And that's where it goes. But I will say this. I think Mercedes, it's going to be interesting if Mercedes turn up in the next few races with a package which is like, I don't know, over race distance 20 seconds quicker. So that puts them within 10 seconds of Red Bull at Miami. Say that happens, and obviously they'd start further up the grid as well. So if they start further up the grid, that reduces the time gap as well. I guarantee we suddenly start seeing Red Bull moaning a bit more. And especially about cost cap and secondary cars and that. They didn't mind last year. And I guarantee season, or even this season, if Aston Martin had been even closer to Red Bull, we would have heard more about it. Because they don't. They're happy to have Aston Martin sitting there just behind them, protecting them from Ferrari and Mercedes. You know, who are you going to be more worried about if you are Red Bull? You're going to be more worried about Mercedes and Ferrari than the power of Aston Martin. Because Aston Martin, as a team, have done this before. You know, Jordan, they've built a brilliant car and gone on a championship hunt and finished second, third, fourth in races or whatever. And then next season, you know, we take 99, for example, went for a championship, 2000, absolute nowhere. Well, not absolutely nowhere, but it was a shocking car compared to the 99 car.
It was an awful car.
You know, they've done it before, and we've got to. And it's almost, yeah, it's almost like a protective barrier. And you've got to remember, Red Bull, Aston Martin used to have a link up as well. So there's possibly something behind that in terms of the way they are. But yeah, going back to it, we say Mercedes was a save. Ferrari, was that a save by them, or do you feel like they should have been third?
That was a bottle job. It was a bottle. It was a bottle job. Like it was a bottle job by Leclerc and Carlos kind of bottled it from the position he was in.
Yeah.
He was absolutely nowhere. Like I know you said early in the stream that you said early in the stream, or would you want the safe points? If Charles was where Carlos was, Charles finishes third.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the Drivers' Championship now. Carlos Sainz now 44 points. Charles Leclerc 34. We've got George Russell between him and Lewis Hamilton just ahead. And obviously, Fernando Alonso with his stupid 15 points per race. That's going to be my prediction in Imola if he scores 15 points. Because he has at every event, including Baku. So, yeah, a weird one. Alonso's little quirk there. But in terms of constructors, obviously,
No,
Mercedes 96, Ferrari 78. Ferrari shouldn't be there, should they?
No, and to be honest, Aston should be a lot further clear. It's only because Lance Stroll shouldn't be in that car.
No, completely agree with that. I mean, we all raved about Lance at the start of the season. You know, obviously in Bahrain he had the broken wrists. Jeddah. I think he did all right in Jeddah, didn't he? Where did he finish in Jeddah? No, sorry, he retired from Jeddah. Then we had
He,
Australia. He was fourth after all the chaos, which yeah, okay, that's where you should be. Baku, he
but, Je-
on his favourite
but,
circuit, he was nowhere. No, seventh. Sorry.
but Jeddah, he wasn't. But Jeddah, he only finished fourth because of the carnage. Jeddah wasn't a great
It,
drive by
it was
Lance Stroll.
it was Melbourne. He was fourth.
Sorry, Melbourne.
Yeah.
Sorry, it wasn't a great drive or anything like that.
No, but he was there to take advantage of it.
Yeah, one. We've had what was this our fourth race of the season?
This was our fifth.
Yeah, and he's had one.
Yeah, I'd give him Bahrain and I'd give him Australia because he was there to take advantage. But
But he should. I'm sorry,
yeah,
he shouldn't have been in the position of a double
no,
broken wrist in Bahrain in the first place. I'm not giving him Bahrain. If you are, it's the same in any sport. If you are fit enough to participate, you are fit enough to get the criticism that goes with it. I'm not
yeah.
applauding someone. Oh, he broke his wrist and
But I still think in Bahrain, I mean, he was. Let me just have a look. 16 seconds behind Fernando in the end, which, to
that
be honest, did it. Put the rave around Fernando Alonso how everybody else wants to. 16 seconds behind ain't bad. Whoever
that
you
car,
are.
that car when sorry mate, that car when it rolled to Bahrain was by far and away the second
Oh yeah,
quickest car.
he should be fourth, no doubt about it. But if you take into, I'm saying if you take into account his, his injuries, he's coming back. It gave it, it just gave him a little bit of a leeway. Sixth place. He beat George. He beat Bottas. Who else was around him? He wasn't far off Lewis and Carlos Sainz. It's not the end of the world, that result. We said it after Bahrain. We said it wasn't a too bad a result. Now he's really going to have to start picking up his game because it's really not good enough to even be out in Q1 in that car. It should be. I mean, Fernando's literally telling you how to drive and telling you it's a great overtake. What's Fernando doing watching the big screen? For God's sake.
That's patronising that.
Yeah, it was. Everybody says it's nice by Fernando, but it's not. It's Fernando playing about. If Lance Stroll's anywhere near him on pace, it wouldn't be this kind of Fernando
Yeah.
Alonso, would it?
Yeah, if Lance Stroll is Lewis Hamilton level pace,
Yeah.
not right. That's a different conversation. It's not buddy high.
Yeah. Well, we obviously have sort of mentioned some of the drivers so far. Just very quickly, Alpine back to where they should be, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, that car was pretty decent last year.
And the Alpine president isn't happy at the minute with the team, given the amount of money they've thrown in. So, for all the talk of having more cars, and constructors on the grid, I would watch that space very, very carefully because Alpine was supposed to be, based on Alpine Renault's old predictions, they should have been challenging for world titles at this moment in time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because we know how Mickey Mouse in and out, shake it all about that Enstone team has been over years. More names than Fernando Alonso comes up with for Lewis. 10th place.
I was gonna say P Diddy, but yeah.
Yeah, 10th place. Kevin Magnussen, good drive.
Solid. Beat his teammate who was looking like he was gonna prove me wrong at the start of the year, but
yeah, it's one race, mate. One race. Behind that, we had Yuki Tsunoda holding off Lance Stroll. Shouldn't be happening.
The second most consistent position.
Yeah, ridiculous, isn't it?
11, 10, was it 11, 11, 10, 10, 11 or something?
If you go back in the past, it was 7th, wasn't it? Just outside the points. Oh, not again. But actually, in that AlphaTauri, that's still a good job by Yuki Tsunoda.
Yuki Tsunoda is having a very good season this season because I think everyone underestimated just how bad that car is.
Yeah.
So he's do you know what? Fair play, Yuki. You really are having a good result.
They are having to play some strange strategies with him as well to get their positions.
Lance being 12th, you shouldn't be on the grid. We already got rid of one useless Canadian last year. The sooner your father sells up Aston Martin, the better, really.
Yeah. Well, we look at the whole race result. Only 2 drivers lapped in the end, which shows. Well, even though Max has come from ninth, for only 2 drivers to be lapped and nobody to retire, no safety cars to hold people up, no virtual safety cars, that's quite impressive. What's not impressive, as it says at the bottom, a mission for McLaren. Now, apparently, a mission. We all know what it means to us. It's going to be a tough job that nobody really wants to do. That's apparently slang in Miami, a mission, for exactly what I've just said. So that's why it's there. But Piastri, Lando Norris, 17th, 19th. It's almost like Jeddah again, where they're fighting over last place.
Baku seems to have been a flash in the pan.
Let me just throw out there as well, Zach Brown saying, Piastri obviously having to get used to Formula One. Lando Norris in World Championship winning form with his driving. We've just got to give him the car. And in a year's time, they will have the best driver pairing on the grid. Unquote. Zach?
Next time, this time next year, I'm going to be in the bidding process for Manchester United.
Well, it'll still be going on, but
that's what I'm saying. This time next year, I'm going to be in the bidding process.
Also, if you're going to put your test driver on the wall, let F1 know who he is. It was not Pato O'Ward.
What about what they mixed up Roger Federer for that act?
The act, yeah. I just looked at it and I was like, that is no way Roger Federer. I mean, Christ, F1, you invited all these celebrities and you can't get it right. But anyway, yeah, McLaren. Wow. I mean, we had predictions at the start of the season ourselves. We had them. Let me just have a look here very quickly. We had them. I had them.
You had them higher
6th.
than I did.
You had them 7th, ahead of Haas, AlphaTauri, Williams, and fighting Alfa Romeo. Well, they're going to be lucky to fight Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, your constructors win is looking a bit in the mud. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, let's see how good the update is. I'm relying on that
Speaking of-
update. Mind you, I said
speaking of-
Alpine would beat Aston.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the predictions, let's get into them.
Yeah, we will do. You notice we brushed over the McLaren topic very quickly. We're just like, yeah, no, they're nowhere.
There's nothing to talk about. Like, it's just, do you know what?
It's bad, isn't it?
It's bad, and you know what? I think it. Do you know they say, you know, what goes around comes around karma. This is karma.
Yeah.
I wasn't the biggest. As you know, I wasn't the biggest Danny Rick supporter last year. I wasn't his biggest defender.
No.
But it's beautiful karma, isn't it? Because you're telling me Danny Rick wouldn't be finished by Oscar Piastri as in the current car.
No, I completely agree. But as you say, let's go prediction time, because like Danny Rick's McLaren career, this will find a victory at some point, but not this weekend. My qualifying result, Checo Max Leclerc, 1 point for Checo Perez on pole. Wajid, Max Checo Alonso. I know, you do not know how many times I've had a message off him, oh, Max ruined my qualifying prediction.
I was so nailed on as well. Oh.
I mean, I'm not going to give you a point, but I'm going to give you credit for, you can have a bit of credit for being that close. Race, can you remember your prediction?
Yeah. Charles Lewis George, I think I went.
Charles Lewis Perez, you went.
Okay, yeah.
Close.
Yeah, close.
I mean, tell you what, if that result from that qualifying had come up, what a race we would have had. Because that would have been Lewis from 13th on the grid. Maybe the update come overnight. Yeah, my prediction was Checo, Russell, Lewis. Yeah, Checo could have won the race. Russell could have got on the podium. Lewis, yeah, no. Too much faith. Too much faith in the 7 times world champion. Or as many clips on TikTok has shown, even Christian Horner called him an 8-time world champion at one point.
8-time world champion.
Our random predictions. Can you remember yours?
2 red flags.
Well, we didn't even get a yellow flag, so the only 2 red flags you got were Ferrari ones in the crowd.
Martin Brundle to mistake a celebrity. I should have just gone with Brundle to something to happen on the grid.
Yeah.
Oh, and what was the what? Oh yeah, Red Bull. My typical Red Bull collision. Nil point.
So
just like
this event,
just like UK in the Eurovision.
Has Eurovision actually happened?
No, it's this month, isn't it? It's in Liverpool.
Oh yeah, we might get something because we said we'll host it and we did all right last year. But yeah, so nil point. For me, I had Sargent to score a point. Well, he finished last. Literally last because nobody retired. De Vries to beat Yuki. He out-qualified him. And Max mechanical failure. Well, that was all of our hopes at some point in that race because he was flying through the field. So for me, it is a 1. So that means out of a possible 9, 18, 36, 46, 50...
58 point. 58 point.
No, hang on. That's not right.
No,
9,
48,
18,
48
points. Out of 48, Wajid, you have 5 and I have 7. Now you see, for the information in Formula 1, why you watch this podcast. I say again.
5 races. Well, 5 races and neither one of us have hit double digits in the prediction.
I mean, how have we not hit? I mean, Red Bull's the quickest car on the field, and we still haven't predicted that right. We haven't even got We haven't even got Red Bull 1-2 ticked off yet. Moving on. The last thing we do for this podcast is we do the ratings for drivers in the race. So, are we going from bottom to top again?
As always.
Okay, so first up on the sheet is Nick de Vries. For me, qualifying effort, put something in there, but he spoilt it at the start of the race. I'm going to give him a 4 because he actually looked like he might have a little bit of pace this weekend.
I'm giving him a 3.
Yeah?
Simply because he wasn't last.
Yeah. Valtteri Bottas, who came home in 13th in the end. Now, he's had 2 terrible races. So actually, to be where he is, again, I'm going to give him a 4. I don't think it was too bad a race, and we actually saw him at times. He got into Q3 as well, didn't he?
I'm giving him a 3. I don't know where he was in the race.
I only gave him a 4 because he turned up into Q3, so that's an effort in that.
No, sorry, 3.
Next up, Kevin Magnussen, 4th on the grid, formed to 10th in the race. For me, considering he wasn't anywhere previous this weekend, I'm going to go 7. I think it was a good effort by K-Man.
I'm going 7. I totally forgot he put it into 4th at qualifying.
Yeah.
But yeah, what he picked up the piece in qualifying and he picked up the piece in the race.
Let's say, for example, Charles hadn't crashed and he's still 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah, still a good effort. There's nothing to say he couldn't have improved. Next up is Wajid's favourite Ferrari driver and Spaniard Carlos Sainz, finishing 5th in the race. For you, a 2. Wow. Wajid is playing hard to get for the Spaniard this season. I am going to give him a 5. I just think it was average.
He should be finishing 3rd.
He should be, and that's why he's not got higher than a 5.
from the position he was in,
Yeah.
that car was quicker. That car was quicker than the McLaren than the
Yeah.
Mercedes this weekend. Let's not make mistake. Actually, you know what? Give him a 3 because I forgot Charles Leclerc's coming up. He got beaten. He got comprehensively beaten by George.
Yeah.
And if Lewis had if that Mercedes had a little bit more pace and he wasn't struggling to get by the Haas and things, he'd have been beaten by Lewis as well.
You know what's quite worrying for Nick de Vries and Valtteri Bottas is they still haven't. They're still second and second to last on mine, even with these scores going in, and they've had an extra score than half the people.
Yep.
Oscar Piastri. I am going to go for 2. He was nowhere this weekend.
1, just for showing up. He's very lucky he didn't get a 0. Because
We've only had 1-0 so far this season.
I am so sick and tired of hearing. I'm so sick and tired of him, of hearing about, oh, he's ill. Oh, it's the effort. Oh, he needs to get used to the car. No, get on with it.
Next up is Pierre Gasly's best friend, Esteban Ocon. He's going to get known as that for the rest of the season. So, Esty Bestie for Pierre Gasly. We're going to go. Go on.
I'm giving him a 6. Good drive. I think he beat Pierre. He beat Pierre as well.
No, he finished behind Pierre.
I do
3 seconds. I'm going to give him a 6, but only because I am giving Pierre. No, I'm going to give him a 7. I'm going to give him a 7. I thought it was a good drive in the end. And I'm going to just while we're scrolling up, we'll stick with Alpine while we're at it. Gasly, it's a 7 for me as well. Fell back a little bit too quickly in the race after he got past, because he was up in about 4th at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, I gave Ocon a 6. He qualified 5th and he finished ahead of Ocon. Yeah, I'll give him a 7. I'm gonna give him a 7.
Well, that's 7 more than you gave him last time.
Was I wrong last time?
Probably not. Next up is our British hope in the McLaren, or our British hope in the Orange Tractor, Lando Norris. Wow. Terrible weekend for the Brit. 2.
I'm also going 2. I was debating between a 1 or 2.
He did what he could do. He beat Oscar. It's not much of an achievement right now. Sorry, Lando. Next up, Zhou Guanyu, who finished 16th in the end after qualifying in 14th.
Yeah, he's getting a 3. He's been nowhere this season. I don't know if it's the alpha or whatever, but I had higher results for Guanyu. Sorry, I had high expectations.
Yeah, I did expect a bit more. I am going to go 3 as well. He was there in the background during the race, but that was about it. Yuki Tsunoda, 11th in the Alpha Tauri. For me, I am going to go... Sorry, I've just got a message saying battery level critical, so just... there we go. We're going to go Yuki Tsunoda. For me, I'm going to go a 6. I think he probably should have got a point out of that car this weekend.
I'm also going 6. I think he should have been K-Mag.
Yeah, he was in the battle there, but sort of fell a bit back afterwards.
I understand the Alpha is a total dog, but I don't know. I think there was enough in there for him.
Logan Sargent next up, last in the race, last in the qualifying. I'm going to give him a 3 though, because I think that he was even in the battles with McLaren. He shouldn't be. You know, his McLaren should be a lot further up. So
I'm giving him a 1. I don't care rookie or not. Whatever. Thanks for what you just about beat Oscar. Cool. Great. Brilliant, man. Thanks.
He didn't beat Oscar.
I did though. Sorry. Home race.
Yeah.
all that hype. He's had. I don't care if he's a rookie or not. And the scary thing is that between him, Nick De Vries, and Oscar Piastri, one of them's going to win Rookie of the Year.
True. Next up, Nico Hulkenberg in the Haas. For me, what do we give K-Mag? 'Cause we gave him a 7, didn't we?
I think I gave him a 6. K-Mag. Or did I give him 7? Yeah,
7,
I'm giving
yeah.
him a 4. I'm giving him a 4.
I'm going to give him a 4 because he was quick when he practice he was quick, and then it didn't translate into race, did it? That was the problem for him. So yeah, I agree, a 4. Expected a little bit more from Nico this weekend, to be fair. We have the Aston Martin driver himself, Lance Stroll, as the introduction said, Canadia's great hope.
Canadians. I forgot about that.
Well, Canada's great hope for me this weekend. He's getting a 1. He was nowhere in qualifying, and that car's quick enough to be on the podium. How is he not even points?
You're being nice. I'm giving him the second big fat 0 of the year.
Bobby Power. Sorry.
Absolutely nowhere in a car where his teammate finished on the podium. He had his wrists. Like, how many more excuses are we gonna give him?
Completely agree.
He's not good enough.
After that, we have the British Thai driver, Alex Albon.
I'm giving him a 5. It was a good qualifying. He just went nowhere in the race. And that Williams he was.
Williams didn't look that slippery in the end.
No, but he did. But the thing is, like, Lewis struggled to get past him, but we know how bad that Merc was. But
yeah,
and they was like, oh, the car's not designed for our car. The circuit's not designed for our car. It's literally 2 massive straights.
You've also got to design the car around the circuits. Circuits don't change. No point designing your car around a circuit. They're all different.
It's true.
Next up, we have a George Russell. I'm going to give him an 8. I think it was a strong weekend.
I'm also giving him an 8. It was a very, very strong weekend.
Strong weekend for Russell. So where's your Russell? Which is a big improvement on last weekend as well. Next up, we have Charles Leclerc. I'm going to let you go first on this because we haven't got the old Ferrari symbol. So.
Oh, Ferrari. I'm giving him a 3. It's a bad weekend. You can't.
I think that was kind. I am also going to 3, but I think it's kind by us. I think we're only giving him a 3 because he started making moves near the end of the race.
Yeah, that is literally the only reason. But it was a bad week.
Like, he was sat. He was a bit like Lewis. He was sat 13th for a lot of it, a long time as well, wasn't he? Speaking of Lewis, the 7 times world champion, what are we giving Lewis Hamilton after this weekend?
I'm gonna 6 or 7. I'm gonna go 7 just because his recovery drive was very, very good.
I'm going to go 7 as well, but it is a borderline 6 because
honestly,
his first half of the race was a little bit bad.
Well, I was the exact same because I was thinking qualifying, he was nowhere. I bet if I'm bumping Leclerc up, then
yeah. Yeah, and we're giving Russell a higher score than Hamilton. And also, I think Hamilton gets an extra point for going, I'm not going to let him through, and then actually lets him through in probably the worst part of the circuit to let him through.
Yeah.
Stand by your words, Lewis. Yeah. I will admit that puts him on his 4th, 7th score for me this season. So, consistency. Next up, we have Mr. Consistent himself, Fernando Alonso.
I'm giving him a 9. What else could he do this weekend?
No, yeah, I think I agree with that. I think I will go a 9 as well for Fernando. And the first 9 I've given him this season, actually, because because I gave him a 10 in the opening race. Max Verstappen?
9. Balled it in qualifying, but he literally dominated the.
Yeah,
the
I
only-
am going to 9 as well. You know, qualifying was a shocker.
Yeah, that's literally the only reason. Everything else, he was absolutely perfect this weekend.
So we're going 9. And Sergio Perez.
I'm going 7.
I'm going an 8. I just think, you know, like he couldn't have stopped Max anyway. I think whatever the situation in that race.
Am I going 7? No, I'm going 6.
Yeah, I can understand that as well.
He was comprehensively. He had. I don't care. You know that Red Bull's that quick. He had 15 laps where he had enough time to pull the gap out from his teammate. He didn't, and he was just comprehensively slapped by Max this weekend.
Yeah, can understand that. So just putting the filter in to put these in order. So we have a tie at the top of my scores, 42 points each for Perez, Verstappen and Alonso, with Lewis Hamilton close behind on 37, Leclerc 32, sorry, Russell 35, Leclerc 32. I don't know why it's done that because it hasn't obviously sorted it in points order. There we go, that's better. And down the bottom we have Norris, Sainz, Piastri, Bottas, and De Vries as my bottom 5. Going off Wajid's score, Max Verstappen leads by 2 points over Fernando Alonso. Perez back on 38, just ahead of Hamilton on 36, and then Russell on 32. Considering you said Guan Yu Zhou's been nowhere, he is 6th in your table.
Did I say this here? Fair enough.
Or at least in the last 2 races, he's been nowhere.
But I've also been.
So he's 7th. No, he's not.
But I've also been.
Sorry, Sonoda's ahead of Joe. For some reason, this has not worked itself out correctly. But anyway. And your bottom 5 are confirmed as Sargent, Piastri, Sainz, Bottas, and De Vries.
We're very, very similar with those. We're very, very
Yeah,
similar.
very similar, especially with the bottoms. But
see, I find it interesting for all the poking and prodding you've sort of given me about Carlos Sainz. He's in your bottom 5 as well.
yeah, only because of the last 2 races, really. The point is with Carlos is he's been bringing the car home and getting results, but are they good results for a weekend? Possibly. Should they be better because he's in a Ferrari? Yes. That's the problem. He's in that sort of no man's land between the two.
All I'm saying is, if you're gonna hold me to task about Joe, I'm gonna hold you to task about Sainz.
Still holding you to task about Mick Schumacher, mate.
And where's he?
Sitting waiting for Lewis to retire.
Yeah, exactly. Could be a couple of years.
Yeah, it could be. We'll very quickly add on to the end of this podcast. Your winner and your loser from this weekend. So your winner first of this weekend.
Verstappen.
Yeah, for me, it's hard to go past Verstappen, but to be a little bit different, I think I've got to say Fernando Alonso. I never thought I'd keep saying this, but yeah, Fernando Alonso.
I'm done being different as
I'd almost say Mercedes as well. I think they won on a weekend a weekend where they should have been a lot further back.
Maybe.
Loser of the weekend.
The Miami Grand Prix.
My loser of the weekend is that security guard who decided to lay his hands on Jackie Stewart. If you've still got a job now, well done to you, because you've done some begging. But no, officially loser of the weekend for me has got to be, in terms of drivers and team, McLaren. Got to be McLaren.
I didn't want to go. I just think the Miami GP as a whole
Well, yeah, it's and maybe the walkout. Oh God, how many have we got for loser of the weekend? I mean, Christ alive, we've got another podcast to do later, and we've got to do loser of the weekend there yet. Save one for later. That's on another channel which you want to follow us, not them. Anyway, yeah, I'm not sure there's much more to go through. Obviously, we now have a week's break before the next Grand Prix, and then we have three Grand Prix on the track. Yeah, we don't, but we have 3 Grand Prix on the trot. So next week, at some point, we'll be doing the Imola preview for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. We will try and make sure we say that right. I guarantee by the end of that, we'll be just saying the San Marino Grand Prix because that's what it is. Even though it's not even in San Marino. But anyway, Imola's actually still in Italy. Anyway, we've got San Marino, we've got Spain, and we've got Monaco. Can't remember if that's the right order. I don't think it is.
I think it's Imola, Spain, Monaco.
Yeah, so we've got Imola, Monaco.
Oh no, it is Imola.
So
Monaco, sorry.
Imola on the 21st, Monaco on the 28th, so a week later. Then we go a week later to Barcelona, and then it's 2 weeks till the 18th of June when we go to Montreal, and then it will be off to Austria.
Because that makes total sense to you. That makes total sense to fly to Europe for 3 races, just to fly to Canada, to fly back to Europe.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Anyway, Wajid, thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Your weekly therapy session has been done. How do you feel?
Thank you for letting me have my rant. If I've annoyed some people, oh well.
And that is the end of the review for the Miami Grand Prix here on Motorsport Magpie channel. Hope you enjoyed it with myself and Wajid, and we will be coming back to you with the preview very shortly for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we will be able to see a challenge to Red Bull there in Italy at the Imola circuit. But for now, give this channel a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you next time.